Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and we have an interesting update on The Outer Worlds 2. Saw this from Games Radar. Let's jump right in. The Outer Worlds 2 has over 90 perks, but you can't respect your character because your choices are permanent, and the RPG's director wants to make sure you're building your character and really doubling down. There's a lot of times where you'll see games where they allow infinite respect, and at that point, I'm not really role playing a character. So controversial take. I think he's 100% right. In games that let you just constantly respec without some kind of effort into it, like I get being like, oh, I went to a retrainer or something like that, but games that let you just respec on the fly, you're at that point you're metagaming and you're not really role playing. You're not set to your character. Or you're not doing a certain thing. I love the idea of your choices are permanent, especially in an RPG. I also love hardcore modes when RPGs have them. I usually like to beat the game at least once normally before going into a hardcore mode because hardcore can be hardcore, punishing, brutal, any other dozen things you want to think of. But this is super cool to me just because it forces you to think about what you're going to do with your character. So let's get in. That's my 2 cents on that. All right. The Outer Worlds 2 director has explained why the upcoming RPG has ditched the ability to respec your stats and its own service of the roleplay. Obsidian's latest RPG has its grand unveiling at the Xbox Game Showcase 2025, and the Outer Worlds to direct that followed. And while it has some of the most unique perks on the RPG market, with the likes of bad knees being part of the apparent 90 plus perks, it also being unique by ditching one of the genre's most beloved mechanics. The Outer Worlds 2, you'll be unable to respect your character, meaning you'll need to think carefully about where you want your points to go before doing it. The Outer Worlds 2 director Brandon Adler spoke on the RPG site and explained that the decision, saying, lots of people love respect. That is definitely one way you can go about things. I personally want the player to understand that their choices are permanent. They matter. And then they think more about their choices. While the first Outer Worlds game did allow you to respec, Alder didn't work on that game, so his presence is definitely being felt with the sequel. Adler, I said Alder a second ago. It's Adler. Explains there's a lot of times where you'll see games where they allow you infinite respec, and at that point, I'm not really role playing a character because I'm jumping between. Well, my guy is really a great assassin that snipes from long range, and don't call shade on Skyrim. It's a mechanic that works with every class. Fuck you. And then, oh, now I'm going to be a speech person, he adds. For me, it's not wrong that people like to play like that. I want to make sure that that role playing is really strong. I want to make sure that they're building your character and really doubling down, making sure your role playing comes through the whole experience. Yeah, very interesting that they went with this choice. I do love it. I think it's going to make the game uh have better replayability because you could take one path and then go back and then try another path, and because your choices are permanent and you can't just change things on the fly, you're just going to have to deal with what your character can do based on how you made that character and what your goal was. I love it. I love it. The more I read about Outer Worlds 2, the more I enjoy it. I'm deliberately not watching the direct stuff and the video footage because I'm trying to be as visually spoiler free as possible. I like to go into a game blind if I can. It's almost impossible to go completely blind unless you just set the name of the game as blocked on all your browsers on every device you have. You're going to find something out. We live in the age of information. That's just bound to happen. But you can avoid the big stuff by not watching any of the videos. And that's my take. But this, your choices are permanent. That's what do they say? Kino. It's as I would say, very, very for those of you that get that reference, you know what I'm talking about. But that's dope. I love it. Super groovy. I don't really have anything else to say. Everything was said right there. Almost everything was said in the headline. The article was almost pointless, but sometimes that's how it is. But that's all I have for this article. This is your host, Belmont, signing out.